Greetings from Kenwell. Today is Sunday, January 23rd, 2022. Today I'm going to tell you two stories. The first is about the time that Darlene and I went to the island of Patmos. And the second is possibly my favorite healing that Jesus did, which is the healing of the paralytic. Well, we went to the island of Patmos just a few years before COVID. I like to say, if any of you can remember before COVID these days, I am so looking forward when we get this pandemic behind us, but that's another point. Well, we arrived on the island of Patmos, and the first thing we saw, there were numerous taxis there waiting to take us all over the place. Well, the two main attractions on the island are going to the monastery, which is by far the number one, and the second is seeing the cave where the Apostle John wrote the book of Revelation. Well, there's this one guy we saw, he came up to us and says, can I show you folks around? We said, sure. This guy's name was Michael. Michael was a classic Greek. He was in his mid-30s, he had long dark hair, and anyone looking at him, he was strikingly Greek. Well, the first thing that Michael says to us, well, obviously, you folks want to go see the monastery first. And both Darlene and I, oh no, we want to go see the cave. But why would you do that, he said. Everyone wants to go see the monastery. And we said, no, the cave is far, far more important to us. Okay, so we're off. We arrive, and he parks out front, and this guy Michael says, all you do, you go up the stairs, walk along, and then you'll see the entrance going down to the cave. So we go. It's beautiful sunny day. We're walking along. We go down the stairs, and we're confronted by this Orthodox priest. And he was such a friendly guy. He goes, go away, closed. As we're walking back to see Michael, we are really disappointed. And Michael says, why are you folks back so quickly? We said, well, see that Orthodox priest over there? He said it was closed and go away. He goes, come with me. So he goes over, and then there becomes this basically a screaming match between the priest and Michael. And within about a minute, Michael says, okay, you're fine. Go that way down the stairs. Everything is great. So obviously, Michael won the argument over the priest. So we go down the stairs, and we're looking around, and the Orthodox Greeks have made this into a real shrine for the Apostle John. And it was really quite fascinating. And you could see the spot where John had been kneeling, and above the part where he was kneeling, they had this gold crown painted onto the wall. It was really quite something. And then two other couples came in, and they're wandering around, and it was a tour guide. He says to us, would you like to join? And I will tell you more about the cave. So the three couples, we sit down. And this guy was amazing. One couple there was German. I think the other was French. And of course, us being English. And so what he would do, he would speak to them in fluent Germany. And then he would speak to the other couple in fluent French. And then turn to us in English. And the presentation was great. And the thing I will always remember is where this tour guide points to Darlene and I and says, and you do know that the only true church is the Greek Orthodox Church. And I remember saying to him, I'm in. I couldn't care less. If you want to say the Orthodox Greek Church is the only true church, that's fine. Anyways, we had a great time doing that, and it's something I will always remember. Now, perhaps my favorite story is the healing of the paralytic. I find that a fascinating story. And I want to describe to you some of the details that you might not have thought of before. So think about this. First of all, the paralytic had heard that Jesus had come to a small town. And he had heard that Jesus is healing everyone around. So the paralytic says to four of his friends, "Oh, please, will you take me to go see Jesus?" So the four of them, one on, two on either end, take him to go see Jesus. Well, Jesus had caused such a stir that not only was the house filled inside with the people hearing Jesus, but in the entire outside, it was packed. And I can imagine the paralytic thought, "Oh, I really wanted to see Jesus." Well, one of them, and it doesn't say who, got the bright idea, "Well, how about we go up and we lower you through the roof?" And I'm sure the paralytic, "What? Are you kidding?" But he was quickly convinced. So think about it. Some of the things that had to happen. The first thing is they needed someone to get a whole bunch of rope, because they needed to tie the four corners of the mat that he was lying in, and they needed a knife. So it doesn't say how quickly, but they obviously got enough rope and they got a knife. So picture this. Jesus is talking in the center of the house. Everyone is packed in there. There are the Pharisees, of course, all the common folk. And all of a sudden, as Jesus is sitting there, he can feel a little bit of stuff coming down from the roof. And I'm sure he looked up and wondering, what's going on up there? Then he starts seeing that there's a little hole developing in the roof. And this hole gets bigger and bigger until eventually the four guys lower this paralytic down on a mat. And I'm sure Jesus must have been smiling. He must have been saying to himself, "Wow, the faith that these guys are exhibiting." So, picture this. Now the paralytic, he's lying on the ground. And he's intently looking up at Jesus, hoping with his whole heart that Jesus is going to heal him. But what Jesus said next not only shocked the paralytic, but shocked everyone around. The first thing Jesus said to him, "Man, your sins are forgiven." And at this point, the paralytic is, "Yeah, Jesus, that's nice, but I really came here to be healed. It's nice that my sins are forgiven, but really, I came here for a different purpose." But you got to imagine the reaction of everyone else in the room when Jesus said, "Your sins are forgiven." Everyone knew that Jesus was saying that he is God, since it is only God who can forgive sins. I can imagine the people in the room, the one guy says to the other, "Did you hear what he said? He just said he's God. I can't believe that. He said he's God." Oh! But then, Jesus looks down at the paralytic and he says to him, "To show you that the Son of Man has authority on earth, I command you to rise up and walk." Now, here's where I want you to think about how great a miracle this really is. This paralytic has been lying on this bed, paralyzed. His legs have greatly atrophied. And I want you to think about, if you've been sick for a prolonged period of time, and then you try to stand up suddenly, you're going to go flat on your face. Well, so Jesus commands him to rise up and walk. That meant instantly all his leg muscles, all his leg muscles were regenerated. And the guy stands up. And even standing up is a miracle. Because as I just said, if you've been sick for a while and you stand up, you're going to fall flat on your face. But this paralytic has not walked in probably years. And this is a miracle that he can stand up, because think about when when you see a young toddler, when they're first learning to walk, they get up, walk a little bit, fall down, walk a little bit, and fall, because walking is a learned experience. Yet Jesus instilled this into the person's mind instantly. And then the guy gets up, takes up his mat, and walks out. Just think of how you would have reacted if you had seen this. I know. I just wouldn't believe it. And what would you do if you saw this? As I said, I know I would go out and I would tell my wife, I would tell my family, I would tell everyone. This guy Jesus, first of all, he said he's God. And then he proved he's God by healing this paralytic. I can't believe it. And I can imagine that, within a day, thousands of people in the area heard about this amazing miracle. So once again, to close, Jesus, in no uncertain terms, has stated that he is God. And he has stated that he is the fulfillment of the coming Messiah. And I need reading glasses for this. Now, Jesus is telling everyone that he's a fulfillment of the ancient prophecy found in Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 and 14. And I will read these verses to you. Verse 13 says, "Behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed." These verses from Daniel, they're obviously pointing to Jesus. So Jesus is truly God, and Jesus is the much looked forward to Messiah. May the good Lord be with you until we meet again.